Okay, can you all see my screen with the agenda on it?
Yes, looks good.
All right, great. I just want to make sure it's big enough for you to see. So, I just wanted to start with a conversation about how training is going. You know, problems, good things. With it being completely different this year, just kind of wanted to have that conversation to start with. Anybody want to begin? Is nobody doing training?
Ours is going well. We've been going since January. A few hiccups along the way. I have noticed the Google Classroom participation has kind of dropped off. They were very active in the beginning for about the first month and a half. And then after that, it's kind of, yeah, they're there. But they've continued to remain steady on the evening Zoom meetings that I offer. So even with the Course Connect being at the exact same time, I only lost about 5 in my total number, which I thought a bunch more would have went because I only have like 10 or 15 new ones, but I've still got those returners that decide to come. So I was kind of shocked at that. But yeah, I just kind of giggled to myself when the Google Classroom participation kind of dwindled because that's just what's going to happen.
So when you say participation, are you saying that they were actually turning in assignments or but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not looking at the assignments. They're just not hitting the turn in part of it.
Correct. They're not hitting the turn in part. They're not participating in the class discussion questions. They did it was like when it was new and it was a novel idea to have this discussion question. There was a little bit of discussion back and forth, but now it's like, yep, no, they'll send me private messages, but they don't feel comfortable doing the discussion questions any longer through that. So
is that your returning veterans or the new people?
Both. It's both. I'm getting more private messages from veterans than I am from the new people. Not that it's not working, but my class is combined. And so I know I might be the reason why the Google Classroom participation is lacking because I'm not really, I don't know how to explain it. I probably could use the platform better. We'll just say it that way and be more interactive on that platform.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think ours is going well. Lancaster, Douglas, Sarpy, and Dodge have combined training by Zoom. And overall, I think we're having success there, averaging 170 to 200 participants, so new and returning. A few hiccups with that, with sometimes volume cutting out, things like that. But I think now everyone who's getting on is, able to do that successfully. Issues with Google Classroom, not everyone has figured it out. So I think I have about 40% participation. Otherwise, I give them both the links and the Google Classroom, so they'll just send it to me directly if they're not on the Google Classroom. And I know people are behind with their classwork. It's a lot. Some speakers give more than others, so it takes them longer. And I talked with a new person today, and she's behind. She's had other things go on in her life too. So I think it's hard to dedicate a lot of evening time because some of them, work to do the homework.
So So a question then back, thinking now that you've kind of got a handful of weeks under your belt, would it be more beneficial to make it a little bit more asynchronous where those videos are uploaded and they're not necessarily live? What do you think, and make them shorter?
I think the people like the live. That's just the feel I'm getting. I think that's, you know, these are all very social, interactive people, and I think they look forward to that because it's not getting together, but at least they can see people and see them live. And I think if we could just, even if just have them show up and talk, I think they would love that. I think they miss that. So I think they like that better. I mean, you know, they'll certainly, if they miss the program, they'll watch the recording, but I think they like the live. That's just what I'm getting.
I do think though that the lessons in the Google Classroom need to be chunked into short snippets. Because I reuse some of my old Master Gardener courses that were, you know, 2 hours long. And I got the comment, do we have to watch it all? But they're willing to watch, you know, each one of those little 20-minute sections much easier. So I think if we chunk it, it's easier for them to just watch for 20 minutes or half hour at a shot instead of devoting. And let's just be honest, some of our internet sources are not that stable for that length of time sometimes. That's just, I know with some of mine, I'm learning the hard way. It should have been chunked, but it's too late now. I'm not going to go through it all and chunk it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth,
Okay.
are you done?
I think I got 4 more weeks, right, Phoebe? We were discussing that this week. I don't know. I'm in the downhill slide.
Anybody else?
Well, I've been doing this with Scott and Mary Jane, and one of the things that I've noticed with my master gardeners is, you know, some of them have just been very blunt and upfront, say, we will not go to any kind of delivery via Zoom or any other means. They want the live sessions. They don't appreciate. But of the Master Gardener interns, the vast majority of them appreciate the ability to attend the sessions, even if it is remote. So the only thing I'm not sure about is that there's a number of people that, sorry about my phone, that they're doing it asynchronously. And so it's really hard to tell whether they're staying on task or not, even as much as you ask, even as you look at what assignments they've turned in or not turned in. So that part, it's really hard to tell.
So when you say that they will not attend non-live, are you saying that they won't even attend the Zoom or?
No, they don't want
live?
anything Zoom or anything electronic. They want to be in person. They want to sit down in a classroom and listen to people.
Is that because they don't have the technology, or they're intimidated by it, or they just, I mean,
Well,
they understand this year that that's just not an option, right?
Yeah. And the funny part is that these people are very accomplished, you know. They just don't like the distance, I guess, that is involved with different deliveries in that way. So they said, you know, we won't be tuning in much, but we will be looking for anything that comes about later in the season, whether it's field trips or actual classroom time. So
And if that can't happen, then, you know, where are we at then?
I don't know, because I mean, they like Backyard Farmer, and of course they get credit for watching that, but
You can't give them 20 hours of backyard farmer time.
No,
So,
yeah. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it'll go for them.
I mean, because, Spring Affair is not face to face, because some of them would get stuff from Spring Affair often. I mean, it's interesting that just the way you said that it's just so matter of fact, that's it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
So,
and that's exactly what they've told me up front. So,
interesting.
yeah.
So, oh, okay. Especially after a year of it being this way, you would think that people would, I mean, I could kind of see it last year when this all first started, but now at a year into this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they've even said things like, they didn't want to attend any of the Grow Big Red series, or, I mean, it's not just Master Gardener Education. It's any of these things that we're doing electronically, they would rather pack up in the car themselves and drive to a garden spot that was featured on Backyard Farmer or something like that, to visit that site rather than have everything distance.
And what is the difference between watching it on TV and watching it on your computer?
I don't know.
And look at all the information they're missing out on. I mean, that is, wow. And how many people are in this?
No, it's just maybe 3 people total that have said that.
Oh.
One of them, of those 3, 2 of them are a couple.
Kathleen, do you think that this is a generational shift? I mean, are these older folks, or do you think it's just a personal preference?
I think it's their personal preference because they're very accomplished on the computer. I've had people that are attending that are not accomplished on the computer at all, and they're attending them avidly. So it just depends on the people.
Maybe it's electronic fatigue. They're just tired of everything being electronic. But at this point, we don't have a choice. So
Yeah.
Hey, if I could chime in, I have about a quarter of my volunteers that have made it clear that they accept 2020, whatever year we're in, 21 is going to be online. But if this is how we are moving forward, they will no longer be part of the program because that social interaction that they get during the classes is such a huge factor. And I'm having a hard time. It's like, I don't understand why it's so important in the winter, but we also have that social interaction during the volunteer components when we're out doing our teaching gardens or whatnot. So I haven't quite connected the dots yet, but they've accepted for 21, but 22 is going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
So, most of our clientele all have had their second COVID shot. So, and according to the CDC, they can gather together maskless, even indoors, 2 weeks after their final shot. I don't know if any of you chose. That's completely your decision. Not going to ask whether or not. You're more than welcome to choose, tell. I am going to tell you that I got my second shot yesterday. I was actually able to get in and volunteer earlier in February. So I got the first shot, a shot earlier than the educators did. But I'm not for sure what the university is going to do, and I don't know for sure what extension is going to do. Extension may just say this is the way it's going to be. I mean, I can't see them doing that, but I guess that's something that we need to kind of think about, what would happen if they do say this, that it's going to happen for at least another year. I hope to heavens it doesn't, but that's just something that needs to be kind of in the back of our minds. So
Carrie, what do you mean by extension saying this is just the way it's going to be? Do you mean just Zoom, no face-to-face, distance education, that kind of thing?
Yep.
Okay,
Well, what if they decide that that's what's working and that's the way they want us to continue?
yeah.
So,
It will be interesting, but academic, the university has said that teaching is going to be in the classroom
yes,
this
no,
fall.
I agree, Scott. I
So,
can, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's, but if I can ever get my ducks in a row, what I would like to be able to do for next year is to be able to offer a hybrid option where people will have the ability to come in, do the face-to-face education, but at the same time being simulcast online. So that's
Well,
something in the back of our heads.
yeah,
here.
so that's part of the conversation for 2022.
All right, sorry.
So you're jumping ahead of the agenda. Come on. So,
I'll
Well-
mute myself.
okay.
Well, and just,
Anything else?
Yeah, just one more thing, Terry. So,
Yeah.
my accountability region is, large enough that the drive to come to an in-person education really isn't practical for a lot of people. And so for them, having the opportunity to do it online, they are grateful for that.
Mhm.
And they don't have anything to compare it to where they've done, in-person education. So for them, it's not as much of an issue. What I do gather from, not just the fellowship of them being together and that interaction is they really appreciate the opportunity to talk to us because, we have the information, we're connected to the research. And so they really appreciate that component. And I think those lively discussions that can occur in a classroom are missing a little bit for some of them. And maybe that's why there's this reluctance to do it online. And judging by the amount of questions in the chat, people still want that. I mean, sometimes Mary Jane, Scott, and I, it's all we can do to keep up with the questions that are going on in the chat. So, that's just something that's probably another component of this is that it's not just the fellowship that draws the people to the classroom, but that chance to interact with us. And sometimes that give and take in a Zoom meeting is just lacking. It's just really hard to do that.
I have a
So-
few that are more brave to unmute themselves, and I do encourage. It's like, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask a question, I'm all for it. And I do have some that are really good about that. And like Kathleen said, for those that are over 100 miles one way to get to North Platte, that's really a nice perk that they wouldn't have participated in the program otherwise. So, there's some silver lining to this too, but I have a couple that aren't coming right now. Just, they just don't want to do it.
So
Minor.
yeah, so I actually got an email from one of my interns. They're struggling and I am I am front end loading all of it. So I'm not presenting live. They have to watch videos, read and all that kind of stuff. They have I have set up like a question bank for them that they actually can enter their questions as they are, preparing through the week. So they don't forget what they wanted to know. But one person has been, and we all get these, and those are usually the ones that are, asking us those questions before class or after class. But this person is asking all of her personal landscape questions during class. So during that conversation. And, it's hard to, say, hey, you can't, this is really not the time. Maybe we do this later, but yeah, so I think that's one of the bad parts about, doing this and the person that emailed me, I haven't quite figured out exactly how to respond back to her email, so I've been kind of putting it off, but you know, that wouldn't really be happening if we were face to face, because they would be asking me before class, or they would be, you know, making me stay till 10 o'clock at night asking me after class. So yeah, that's, I think, the biggest downside of this, and I would agree with you, Kathleen, that's what we're here for. That's what they want us to do. You know, that's what they're excited about, is they have this, you know, professional that can help, you know, with their stuff. So anyway, but so any other thing, you know, is there something that we could adjust that, you know, I could help you with to get you through the rest of the season?
The one thing, being that Kathleen, Mary Jane, and I, we have combined, like Kathleen said, the questions that come in, it's, how do I want to say this? How can we move to a webinar? I have talked to Eric, I forget which Eric, I apologize. Thank you. And he had mentioned that there's a cap on the license for the Zoom's webinar, which I totally get, all that fun stuff. But if this is something that is handed down, say next year, that we have to continue to do distance, how could we move to a webinar, secure a webinar, so that way when we're asking questions, I can see that Kathleen's answering something, or Mary Jane, because right now it's just kind of this, well, I'm going to answer it, and
Right.
somebody else, me. I hope you know what I'm trying to say.
No, I understand. So you would actually have to go through Eric to do that. The state program does not have access to the webinar piece of it. That's Extension. Extension has exclusivity rights to, I think, 2 webinar rooms. You would just have to reserve them on the dates and times that you would want them. You can have up to 300 people within your room. You know, I don't know if you would have that many at a time.
Right now, we hit 205 people attending. So we're getting close. Almost every class is close to 200. It's like 190, 190, me almost.
Right.
But
so I mean, that's your option. You would have to do that.
yeah.
But you know, well, we'll talk about it later. So, well, that's the next line. So, anything else for what's working, what's not working? How do we pivot? I hate that word, but how do we pivot if need be?
I know that some of our volunteers have had issues with Google Classrooms. I mean, it's a learning curve. Me personally, I think it's wonderful because it's so great to have all the content in one space, and that it's not, because previously last year we were trying to do box and here's a folder for this and that. It's so nice to have everything for one class in one space. So that's just been very helpful. Now getting people there, totally different story, but I found it to be very helpful.
So just to help with that, and this again would be something else that you would have to set up. So probably not something to do this year, but if you do decide to continue with Google Classroom for future years, I have found that it is much easier to set up a Google Sites, so a website, have each page, like that topic page, have all the links on there that go back to the Google Classroom for them to get all that stuff. You could also embed the PDFs or whatever within that Google Site page too. But having just that single one there instead of, like, you know, all the drop downs. And Scott, you set yours up a little bit differently than I did. I have one classroom for all of the topics, whereas your topic is one classroom a topic. So yours isn't quite as
I
cluttered as mine.
I didn't know what I was doing, to
So,
be honest. So that's what it was working. So I kept with it. But no, I agree. Having just one page,
mhm.
one link would just make
Yeah.
life probably easier.
And that's something that maybe, if moving forward, we could discuss going into Canvas. However, we would have to look at what that cost is. We can fold that cost into the intern fees. But in order to get the veterans or returning master gardeners into that, it would probably cost us about $6 a head. So how do we, figure 700 people at $6 a head? Who's gonna, flip up that money? I mean, the state program does not have that kind of money. So anyway, so, all right, well, that kind of leads us then into, where does training move to in 2022? Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can go back to normal. I really do think that I will stay in more of a flipped classroom style, where they're doing a lot of the pre-work ahead of time and then coming into the classroom to finish that hands-on. So you're still getting that face-to-face feeling, that connection that they really want, but you're not in that classroom presenting for 3 hours at a time. So I think that that's where I would like to see it go. I would also like to see, now that we've kind of all started, kind of sharing some of our ideas, I feel that none of us are on the same page. All of us do something completely different. We are all teaching different. We're teaching different things, different topics. Yes, the state program has kind of the core requirements, but if you ask me, no one's following any of the rules. So, maybe, looking at this and start planning for 2022 in a more cohesive way would be something that we should look at. So questions, comments, if we can go back to normal, whatever normal is anymore, where do you see and what would you like to see happen?
I would like, my biggest challenge that, and Kathleen can help with this as well, is when we have, it's the flipped classroom aspect, being that we would have anywhere from 125 up to 150 in our classrooms doing an activity. Physical hands-on activity is challenging because we don't have round tables, we just have banquet tables, so we don't have that. It's not conducive to facilitate group discussions. But one thing that I love this 90-minute lecture. I think it's turning out really nice, that I would like to move forward, that we would have a face-to-face lecture, but instead of a 3-hour lecture, it would be an hour and a half type thing, and incorporate like homework prior to coming to class.
So Scott, let me ask you a question then. You have a large program. You really only, I don't know how many you ended up completely accepting this year for new people, but I mean, even if you had 40 new people, you're averaging 150, or say 100. Okay, let's make these numbers easy. You have 40 new people, you average 100 people per program. That means 100 people have gone through that exact same training how many more times? So, you know, is it that we need to or separate that intern training from the veteran training?
It, and I shared that with you earlier, I think last month too. I can't remember. That I have a lot of ideas, but just trying to get them implemented. It would be wonderful that if I could incorporate the statewide training with the interns, and then just have a Friday morning class that's more of an advanced class. So I don't know, maybe you and I should just sit down and we can just brainstorm how we can make this work.
Well, I think it's great that you're bringing this up, and I think that that is something that, you know, we need to look at for the whole state. You know, do the other coordinators, so you guys can speak up, do you think that this would be something that we should move forward with? It would take a lot of front end loading. It's going to take a lot of time to put something like this together. But we already kind of have a template now because of what we had to do for this year. Is this something that we fine tune, and that's kind of more how the intern training would happen?
This is Kathleen. I would say yes.
Okay,
I support that.
okay.
And I was just thinking the same thing, because Scott, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. You know, maybe I get 10 new ones a year. I might have a max of 30, and I'm having to come up with all those programs by myself and work with campus and try to get people to come out, possibly maybe an hour and a half to, you know, to come out. So then to make it worth their while, they were teaching for 3 hours at a shot. But if we do more of a combined intern statewide training, that allows that flexibility to just really hone in on what those veterans want and go that route, as opposed to trying to cast a broad net and hit all the topics maybe that everyone in the program needs to get.
No, Mary Jane and I were talking the other day. It's like Fridays are exhausting, and I would love to be able to shift some of that exhaustion. I mean, that workload out. So I would need to work with John to get his thoughts and feelings, and go from there. But I would be on board shifting to more centralized intern training, and then the winter education focusing on advanced classes where the interns can still come and have that social interaction, but shifting to a centralized education format.
I think there could certainly be a lot of value to separating the intern and the returning Master Gardener trainings, as you guys have all said. I think being able to go more in depth on advanced topics for the returning Master Gardeners would be of a great interest to them.
And I know a lot of us have way more veteran Master Gardeners than we do brand new trainees each year. So you think about the amount of time that sunk into getting that intern training done each spring or late winter. It seems like it's, you know, constantly rewarding the new people in the program with not really anything given towards the veteran Master Gardeners and the time that they continue to give. So and having our own advanced training also allows for that specialization. If, you know, we're working under a different environment, that we can then respond in that way.
Okay, well, you know, Scott, if you want to sit down with John and discuss that, you know, I'd be happy to discuss with you since he's not on today. You know, Wayne, you're a little bit different. You know, do you have anything to add into this?
Yeah, so I usually have one or two on a given year for new interns.
Uh-huh.
So a centralized intern training would be fantastic
Okay.
to put them through. And then I know Kelly and I have talked about this a little bit, but they can always join in on the advanced topics too, in addition to the intern training if there's something that really interests them.
Well, I mean, I think that is possible. However, I would be concerned though if they don't have that base training, if they're talking about, we'll just say the trees, they talked about how trees compartmentalize themselves, and there's 4 different ways that they do that. Well, if they don't have that basic morphology and understand, the xylem and phloem and cambium and all that of the tree or of a plant, are they going to get a little bit lost? That would be my only concern, and they would get turned off. But
You could set up prereqs for them. If you want to attend this advanced one, you had to have completed A and F on the intern training before you can do this one.
sure.
That
Yeah.
might motivate them then to complete the intern training a little more if there's something more advanced that they want to go and get into.
So, my only thought though is if we do this, there are some counties that have set up where they're doing the interns in a 2-year cycle. I don't know if that would be possible if we set it up as, as a standardized, you would actually have to get through the full 40 hours within that first year. I don't know, does that something that would turn some of those counties off that do that 2-year plan?
How many total is that? How many volunteers are on that?
Pretty much everybody but you, me, and Scott.
It may end up being a benefit to them, Terry, if there was a centralized intern training program, because they may have set up the 2-year option because it was hard to, get enough speakers and to do all of the 40 hours in 1 year. And so it was easier to spread it out over 2 years.
Yeah,
So-
no, I agree with you, Sarah. And I know that that's exactly why they do it. I'm just saying, it would have to probably change and the policies would have to change.
Right, but it could end up being a good thing for them in the long run.
For
So,
most of mine, it's not getting the training hours.
It's the
The 40, that's the problem. It's the 40 volunteer hours that can be the challenge to get in 1 year, especially
So
if
what
they're
is-
working.
what is the challenge then? Is it because you don't have enough opportunities in your area? Or are they just saying they're too busy? What are those challenges?
It's typically because the ones that are just getting in are still working. So they're in their last 5 years of their careers. And so they're starting to look forward to, their kids are out of the house. They're starting to look for something to start filling some of that time within the community. So they're looking for a way to give back, and they find the Master Gardener program. They like it because they're into gardening. It's a way to give back, but they can get through training because that can be done on their schedule, especially if it's in a centralized location like we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to being able to get to volunteer time opportunities, 40 hours in a year gets to be a little tight for them
Well,
to accomplish that.
I guess I find that that's not realistic. I mean, as I tell mine, if you don't even start till May, if you only need to do 8 hours a month and you'd be done by September, they can start doing volunteer time as soon as they start training, depending on, what's happening within your community. and they have till October 30. Technically, they have till December 30th, but or 31st, but we say we would like you done by October 31st because A, the gardening season is pretty much done for us. And B, we're all trying to get all of our end of the year reports done. So, I guess I think that if you have enough opportunities in your area, I don't think that that should be a problem. So, I don't know. That's my own opinion.
Well, and in addition to opportunities, I mean, the community needs are definitely there. Just by, the upswing in interest in gardening, whether it's through community gardens or Growing Together Nebraska or whatever. I mean, there's lots of opportunities that offer some flexibility as far as Master Gardener activities go. And so, I like to keep them busy. So if there's, being open to them bringing their ideas to you and then providing feedback to whether that fits within the parameters of Master Gardener activities. I mean, it just seems like that there's plenty of opportunities out there. We just need to maybe herd them a little bit. I don't know how to say that.
And, beyond just a couple programs within the state, it's just that first year that has that 40-hour requirement. After that, everybody drops down to less. So, or considerably less, I guess I should say. So, I don't know. I mean, we can definitely look at that, Wayne. I mean, that's legitimate. But I don't know. I don't know. And I do have a form within the files that, kind of lays out what would be expected of a volunteer opportunity program project, where it has some kind of education and it walks everybody through what is kind of required. You're more than welcome to use that as a guide. That's why I created it. So, and a lot of times I'll get, my project needs Master Gardeners, and a lot of times all they really want Master Gardeners to do is pull weeds, which is not what we do. So me sending this form to them, actually, then I don't have to say no, because once they read the form, they realize that, they're not gonna be able to get Master Gardeners. So that does help. That has helped on a lot of things. So, all right. So anything else? It sounds to me like, pretty much everybody's on board for kind of centralizing the intern training, continuing, where then you could focus on a more advanced training. Is that something then that you want the state program to continue with? Because, for years now, the state program put together statewide online training opportunities. This year we went with the 4-part series of All About Trees, and then we are now in the 3-part series of Backyard Controlled Environments. They have been, these 2 programs really did notch up to a more advanced training. I have offered them to my interns, but kind of said, it's up to you. You're already getting 40 plus hours in. Do you want to listen to more? So, is that something that the state needs to do? Is that something that the counties want to take on themselves for that advanced training? Any thoughts?
I do appreciate the statewide ones because, like I said, the difficulty of getting people outstate sometimes can be difficult, and that's a great opportunity for us to offer those. speakers without having to have them drive 3 hours a day.
or longer. And it's also nice to focus like on a series, because I did hear feedback how they really like the focus on trees this year. So the chance for people to, you know, if it rotates like in a series, it could be kind of neat where they can delve in on another subject the next year. So that was appreciated.
Okay. All right.
It's either me or Zoom out here. So no one's going to travel that far for a 1 hour, 2 hour thing, clear North Platte. Just it's the reality.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Looking forward to 2022. All right. So last year, because of COVID 2020, we had to change volunteer requirements. As of right now, I do not foresee changing those requirements. From the way I'm reading the chancellor's statements, the city's statements of Lincoln, it sounds to me like by summer, things will be, I don't know, 3/4 normal, maybe. I don't know. So I do not see relaxing the requirements of volunteer time. The education requirements, again, will stay the same. There are plenty of opportunities, even though Kathleen has a couple people that completely refuse to look at anything online. You know, there is more opportunity for them to do education than there ever has been. So as of right now, the state program is saying that volunteer and education requirements for 2021 will stand according to policy. So again, many counties have had the option to increase their requirements. That's completely up to that county if they choose. But I do not foresee relaxing them at all. So any issues, problems with that? Are you all seeing kind of the same things within your communities?
Right now, it's like our volunteers are very excited to do stuff. So I don't anticipate any issues. A couple have identified that they have personal restrictions, whatever, that they're not candidates for the COVID shot right now. So I'm going to be working with them individually.
Okay.
But I would say a good majority of our volunteers are excited to do stuff.
And are you seeing the same as me, that most of them are coming and saying they've already had both shots?
You said it, you spoke that truth earlier, that the vast majority of our volunteers fell within that first category of getting their vaccine. So some of them have identified that they have been vaccinated and they're ready to go. And
yeah,
but we're not asking, but they have
Correct.
identified.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a major conversation when we meet to sow seeds in the greenhouse. So anyway, but all right, well, okay, so 2021 requirements as of right now will stay as in the policies. So it depends. Things could change. I certainly hope things do not go down any more than like they were last year. So, however, I had a lot of them working outside. They could all still work outside. So, and luckily most of our opportunities are all outside. So, so the next question I have is, I will send out the intern survey like I did last year. There was a lot of really good information that came out of that. I did share that with all of you after those results came in. I want to make sure that everyone has their interns listed in the VRS system, that you have them listed as an intern so that I can, or a trainee, so I can then go in and pull those, just those out of the system and get this survey to them. My other question though is how many, I don't want survey fatigue. How many people do send out end of the course surveys, whether for veterans, interns, both?
We plan on doing one for everyone, for our 4 counties, about the program itself, the Zoom training and the Google Classroom. We kind of, so it's going to be longer than what I usually do. But we're real curious and want feedback on that. So it, I don't know, Scott, is about a page and a half that I put together. And then we'll send that out after we're done with training. So.
Okay. Is this something that others want to maybe look at as a whole state program? You know, or do you want to completely keep it as your own?
No, we could share it. I don't know if we want to collect the data for everybody, but I'll certainly share it with everyone. And then if you want to use it, or if you want to use it, Terry, sure. Happy to.
Okay. Anybody else?
Thanks, Mary Jane. I hadn't even thought about it yet.
That's because you have baby brain.
I have multiple things going on right now, and that is farthest from my mind.
Anybody else? David, do you have anything?
I'm just curious what the survey would look like, and I did a short survey with mine, kind of asking him what motivated him still through the pandemic. And we're like, okay, you're modifying everything to still participate. What's keeping you coming back? And so that was interesting results to come from that. Because still, basically it boiled down to people still believed in the organization. They still wanted to help, even though there were barriers and lots of rules. So that's what I did my survey on, just to say, hey, what's motivating you to still participate in the middle of this mess?
Okay, good. So program fees, those are all the way it's kind of changed now. Most all of you should have all those kind of in by now. I do need you to make sure that you are entering them into the VRS. They have to be in there. That is the point of that. We had several years ago, we had some counties that were not tracking people. We didn't know who had paid, who had books, who participated, who stayed in the program, who didn't stay in the program. So I spent a considerable amount of money to update that VRS so we can start tracking and making sure that everybody who's participating, you know, is getting the policies, is getting, you know, logging in and saying that, or we're logging in saying that they paid, and we're tracking that. So that needs to be done, and that needs to be done on the county level. I cannot do that for you. So please, please, please enter your fees. If you do not know how to enter them, let me know. I will walk you through it. But that needs to be done.
I'm sorry, Terry, when would you like to have that done by?
As soon as you get the money would be great. But if you could have it all done by the 1st of May, that's fine. That's always been kind of the set date for fees need to be turned in by, so. I don't know, that was the date that was set when I came. I don't know what that random date is, but anyway, so that leads me then into the VRS system. Is, are you using it? Do you like it? Is there anything that you would like added to it? I do have a little bit of money. I can ask RJ to update something if there's something that it doesn't do that you would like to see done.
I just need to use it more often because it's just one of those things that it's like when you make labels on Microsoft Word. You do it once a year, you forget. That's my biggest complaint, is when I have to reteach myself how to drill down to get some information. But it makes it, I really like the feature that I can export stuff into an Excel spreadsheet to add stuff up. We just had county commissioners in Sarpy County. They wanted to know what we did in Sarpy County for the last couple of years. So it was really helpful, but it was just reteaching myself how to use the dynamics. If we just have maybe a little bit of training, like the dynamic search and the what is it?
Well,
Search, advanced, and dynamic.
yeah, there is the video that RJ made when he upgraded all of those options.
All right.
So that is there that you can go back and look at. So if you need access to it, let me know, and it's just on a YouTube link.
All right.
So.
Thank you.
But the other thing that I've been thinking of, and this is something that maybe we can and just kind of think about for the next time we meet, because we're getting down to the time to end, is maybe actually taking some of our volunteer projects and categorizing them a little bit better, where and I don't necessarily know what the categories could be, but really kind of lumping them into maybe a little bit better format, I guess. That's kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but maybe I will mull that over and come up with kind of a grouping, and that could be some topics for our next time. So we have about
the other thing I like, the educational opportunities on there as well are very vast.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to narrow those down to help with that as well.
Okay.
I do a training on logging in, getting your account set up, how to add hours each year, and I make everyone do it, go through that class, because like Scott said, people do it and then it's like you got to relearn. So, we go through some examples of what what might fall in the categories, but people always ask, well, where does this fall? Where would we put this? So, and sometimes it could go in a couple different categories. I said, take your best, your best shot. So.
Right. So maybe just narrowing them down. Okay, anything else? Anything else I can do for you?
I just want to say I love the email function in the VRS. I don't think I would be able to contact all my master gardeners in umpteen million counties without it.
Good.
So the only difficulty is getting them to read them.
I can't help you with that. So
I know, and I don't know if it goes to their junk folder and they don't check for it, or what the issue is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I put mine on Remind. I do send out stuff on Remind, and that seems to help. It's like, hey, I just sent this out. Check your email.
So excellent. Well, it is top of the hour. Is there anything else that you would like to add that I can help you with? Is there something else I can do for you? please just let me know. That's what I am here for. You know, and many of you will be on the community environment training for capacity building in April. So hopefully some of the things that relate back to this program, you'll find some new tools to use in that. So Gary, I hope that you've like dug out from all the snow. So I haven't heard a word from you. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I knew you were there.
I'm here.
So, all right. Well, everybody have a good day. Enjoy. Hopefully all of you are getting a little bit of sunshine after the handful of gloomy days we've had. So.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.